There is a pulse moving through the fabric of existence right now, and it has locked onto you with an accuracy that no algorithm and no coincidence could explain. You may tell yourself you wandered here by accident, that a thumb's lazy drift or a platform's invisible hand deposited you at this threshold. But that is the first fog you must walk through. What is actually happening is far more staggering and far more demanding of you. You were called, summoned by a vibration you have been emitting without knowing it, a current that rises from the bedrock of your being, from the unlit chamber that directs every breath and every impulse and every hunger you have ever felt. This is not a chance encounter. This is the arrival point of a pilgrimage that began before this body, before this name, before this century. A soul that has been navigating the long, dark corridor has finally reached the door it was always moving toward. Let that truth land in your body. Do not just hear it, let it press its full weight into your chest and your spine. You are not watching something. You are standing at the edge of an opening that does not come twice in exactly the same form. Something has been living in you that you have never been able to name. A restlessness that no achievement dissolves, no relationship erases, no accumulation of wisdom or comfort or distraction fully quiets. You have tried to outrun it with productivity. You have tried to flood it with information. You have attempted to reason it into silence, to reframe it as ambition, or to sedate it with the steady rhythm of routine. And still it persists, a low, relentless hum beneath the noise of your days. A sense of being displaced, not geographically, not socially, but existentially. As though you are native to a country with cleaner air and brighter skies, and you have been living in exile so long you have almost begun to believe this gray landscape is home. You have carried roles the way you carry uncomfortable shoes. They serve a function, they have taken you places, but you have never once forgotten that they are not your actual feet. The friction you feel is not a malfunction, it is not a symptom of ingratitude or a signal that something is broken in you. It is the precise, inevitable pressure of a consciousness that has exceeded its container. It is the uncontainable pressing against the walls of the contained. The ancient ones who studied the architecture of the soul gave this pressure a name. They called it the monad, the indivisible point, the spark that is simultaneously the smallest possible thing and the totality of everything that exists. It lives in you not as a concept, but as a living pulse. And that pulse has been building pressure across every trial you have endured, every identity you have shed, every night you lay awake wondering what the ache in your chest was trying to tell you. Tonight, that pressure is not just building, it is preparing to release. Your life has not been a sequence of random happenings colliding without purpose. It has been a curriculum, a precise and patient education in the nature of form, of limits, of loss, of what the world can give you and what it never could. The mystery schools of the ancient Mediterranean, the Pythagorean circles, the Hermetic brotherhoods of the Nile, they all understood something that our era of frictionless convenience has chosen to forget. That genuine readiness is not merely a feeling. It is a structural condition, a vibrational density. Certain truths, certain voltages of power, certain depths of reality can only be received by a vessel that has been prepared to hold them. The fact that these words are landing in you, not just as language but as recognition, is itself the evidence of your preparation. You are resonating with a frequency you have spent lifetimes becoming capable of receiving. Consider the image of a great architect, not of buildings, but of worlds, a craftsman of absolute imagination who has built a mansion so vast and intricate that it contains every corridor of experience within its walls. Every chamber of joy, every vault of grief, every gallery of memory, and every garden of sensation. And when the mansion was complete, this architect made a choice that only the most courageous and most curious would make. He walked through the front door as a guest. He chose to forget that he had drawn the blueprints. He wandered the halls in genuine bewilderment, frightened by the rooms he had designed himself, searching desperately for a key to a lock that he had never set. This is not pressure. This is gift. And like all gifts, it is most fully received when the hands are open rather than clenched around the old currency that no longer spends. The urgency you feel is not anxiety. You have been mislabeling it for some time. What you have been calling anxiety is the gravitational pull of your own source. It is the monad recognizing the conditions of its own awakening and pressing toward the surface with the insistence of something that has waited long enough. The lighthouse is not anxious, it is simply very ready to be lit. The conceptual scaffolding has been built, the map has been drawn, but the map is not the territory, and the territory is not found in the thinking mind. It is found in the body, in the electrical current of the nervous system, in the heat beneath the sternum, in the quality of a breath taken all the way to its natural depth. Place your hands now at the center of your chest, not as gesture, not as symbol, as a deliberate act of arrival. Feel the warmth where your palms meet the surface of you. Beneath your hands is the furnace of the monad, the point of indestructible light that has passed through every incarnation intact, through every shattering and every loss, through every moment you were certain you could not continue. That point was never touched by any of it. It was only ever watching, with perfect stillness, from the center of the wheel that has never stopped turning. Breathe into the space behind your hands now, a breath that does not stop at the upper chest but fills the whole cavity, moving the ribs wide and the belly forward. As you exhale, release. Not metaphorically, physically. Feel the costume of the exhausted seeker loosen from your shoulders. The persona of the one who is perpetually almost ready. The character of the wounded pilgrim who is always just one more healing, one more insight, one more breakthrough away from arriving. Let it dissolve in the exhalation. You are not preparing for the moment. You are already inside it. Here are the 2 expanded sections written to the requested character lengths with the full weight and rhythm of the original. When the monad activates, what changes is not only internal. Your electromagnetic field, the living geometry of light that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form, extending outward from your skin in concentric rings of organized intelligence, undergoes a structural reorganization so complete that it cannot be undone. You do not return from this, you only arrive more fully. In the dyad frequency, this field is reactive, porous. It takes on the coloring of every environment it passes through, every charged conversation, every collective anxiety it encounters. Walking into a room full of unresolved grief, you carry some of that grief home without knowing it. Standing beside someone whose nervous system is screaming, your own field begins to echo that scream at frequencies too low to register as sound, but high enough to disturb sleep, appetite, and the quality of your thinking for days afterward. This is not weakness. This is the natural behavior of a field that has not yet learned to recognize itself. A field that is always responding, always adjusting, always partially shaped by forces outside itself, because it does not yet know it has a nature of its own. When the monad remembers itself, the field becomes coherent. It stops leaking. It stops taking on foreign frequencies, not because it has become closed, not because it has armored itself against the world in some spiritual self-defense posture that isolates as much as it protects, but because it has become so fully and completely itself that there is nothing in the noise of the world for the disturbance to find purchase on. A tuning fork struck at 440 Hz does not absorb the dissonance of a broken string. It simply continues to be what it is. Your coherent field operates by the same principle. The chaos is real, the fear is real, The ambient panic of a civilization in disorientation is real and measurable and present in every public space you inhabit. But it does not penetrate a field that is no longer undefined enough to be colonized by external frequencies. That architect is the awareness reading these words. The mansion is this life, and the monad, the eternal, indivisible self, is the blueprint memory beginning to surface through the plaster of the forgetting. The philosopher Leibniz described the monad as a simple substance with no windows, meaning it draws its essential reality not from the external world but from its own infinite interior. Each monad is a mirror of the entire universe, reflecting totality from its unique position. You are not a fragment of the cosmos looking up at something vast and separate. You are the whole cosmos looking through your particular eyes. Every star you have ever stood beneath and called distant was a projection of the depth already residing in your own silence. The ancient alchemists encoded this truth in the language of transformation. They spoke of nigredo, the blackening, the first stage of the great work in which everything that is not essential is dissolved, reduced, stripped of its pretensions. Most people experience their nigredo as catastrophe, a collapse of circumstances that once felt solid, a betrayal that rewrites the story they thought they were living. A dark season in which the old maps stop working and the familiar constellations disappear. If you have walked through that fire, and you have, or you would not be here, you know its texture. The sense that the self you constructed so carefully is coming apart at every seam. But the alchemist knows what the frightened ego does not, that fire is not punishment, it is precision. Every role that burned away was built from other people's expectations of you. Every wound that cracked you open was the patient architecture of your own highest intelligence, removing the false walls that were blocking the light. The oyster does not choose to make a pearl. It responds to an irritant it cannot expel, and rather than exhausting itself in resistance, it surrounds the intrusion with layer upon layer of luminous secretion until the grain of sand becomes something of irreplaceable beauty. Your discomfort, the one you have been trying to resolve, to fix, to reason away, is that grain. You have spent years attempting to remove it. Tonight you are being invited to surround it instead, to bring the whole luminous weight of your awareness to bear upon the very thing that has been most uncomfortable and watch it become the most valuable thing you carry. The friction is not your failure, the friction is the pearl being made. The particular fog you have been navigating has a name in the old traditions, the dyad. The principle of two, division, the state of consciousness in which you experience yourself as a fragment in a universe of other fragments. Perpetually in competition for resources, for recognition, for a sense of being enough. In the dyad, the measuring never stops. You are always comparing your interior reality to the exterior performance of others. You are always locating your worth in the future, in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next version of yourself that will finally feel complete. It is the frequency of a scarcity that no abundance can dissolve, because the scarcity is structural, not circumstantial. More will never be enough when the self that is receiving the more believes itself to be fundamentally incomplete. The dyad has given you everything it had to give. The lessons of separation, of longing, of the particular kind of striving that only a being who believes it is cut off from the source can know. You have graduated from this classroom not by avoiding the lessons, but by having lived them so completely that nothing more can be wrung from them. The exhaustion you feel is not weakness, it is completion. A student who has mastered the curriculum does not fail the teacher by wanting to leave the classroom. They honor the teaching by being ready for what comes next. What comes next is the monad. In the mechanics of the soul's journey, there are moments that the older traditions called pre-established harmony. Junctures where the readiness of the individual and the current of the cosmos converge in a way that makes transformation available with extraordinary ease. Think of a navigator making a correction at the very beginning of a voyage. A single degree of adjustment when you are 3 feet from the dock is nearly effortless. That same correction, attempted 1,000 miles from shore, requires tremendous force and costs enormous time. You are 3 feet from the dock. You are at the degree of adjustment and the correction that is available to you in this state of activation. The shift from the dyad identity to the monadic recognition carries the weight of years of future effort compressed into a single moment of genuine presence. This is the voice of the monad speaking the truth of its own nature. And because you must understand what these words actually mean before they can function as the key they are, let us be precise about what is being declared. I am home does not mean that the journey is abandoned. It does not mean you have decided to stop growing, stop questioning, stop pressing against the edges of what you understand. The spiritual bypassing temptation, the misuse of these words as permission to stop, is real, and it is the counterfeit version of this declaration. And you will feel the difference between the counterfeit and the genuine in your body. Because the counterfeit relaxes into comfort and the genuine one opens into aliveness. What I am home means is this. The pilgrim and the destination have collapsed into a single point. The one who was hungry and the fullness that was being hunted across years and continents and disciplines and traditions and teachers and books and methods and silent retreats and dark nights have recognized each other, finally, as the same thing, wearing 2 different costumes for a drama that required both of them in order to arrive at this moment of mutual recognition. The seeking was not wasted. The seeking was the very mechanism by which the found became findable. You had to move through all of it. Every detour, every dead end, every teacher who gave you half a truth and sent you back into the wilderness to find the other half, in order to arrive at the capacity to receive what was always already here. The mystics of every tradition have encoded this recognition in language so paradoxical it sounds like madness until it sounds like the most obvious thing ever uttered. You are what you were looking for. You were looking for what you are. The search and the destination were always the same movement, viewed from 2 different positions in time. From the beginning of the search, you were running toward yourself, and now you have caught yourself. And there is nowhere else to be. Write it now, in the space below, or on paper, or press it into glass with your finger. Or say it aloud into the room so that the air carries it for a moment before it dissolves. Write those 3 words as an act of sovereign declaration. Not for the platform, not for any witness, not for any record that exists outside your own being. For the permanent and indelible record of your own becoming. Because to move the recognition from the interior of your awareness out through the body, through the arm, through the hand, through the fingers, and into the visible world, this is an act of alchemical completion that cannot be undone by doubt or forgetting or the hard morning that follows a luminous night. It anchors the activation into matter. It makes the invisible legible. It closes the circuit between the truth of what you are and the world in which that truth now lives. As you write, feel, actually feel, not imagine, the resonance of every other voice writing the same words in this same moment, in rooms you will never visit, in languages whose sounds you have never made with your mouth, in bodies shaped by histories entirely unlike your own. You are not a solitary point of realization sitting alone with a screen. You are a node in a field of lights that has been coming online in sequence across the whole breadth of the human world, each one making it fractionally easier for the next. each remembering making the forgetting slightly less total, each arrival reducing by some small but real and measurable quantum the darkness through which others are still navigating by feel and by desperate hope. Your arrival is not only yours. This is the part that the solitary spiritual ego most resists and most needs to hear. Your arrival is a gift to the whole grid of consciousness, not because you will now go out and teach what you have discovered, not because you owe anyone a performance of your realization, but because this is how fields work. You do not need to tell the other lights that you have turned on. They feel it. The grid feels it. The mathematics of coherence does not require your announcement. It registers your presence automatically and adjusts. Every time one light remembers itself, the darkness becomes a little less total for everyone still navigating by feel. Every time one consciousness finds its way back to the still point at its own center, the still point becomes slightly more accessible to the consciousness that has not found it yet. This is not sentiment. This is not spiritual encouragement offered to make you feel your experience matters. This is the actual architecture of the work, distributed, anonymous, cumulative, and unstoppable. You are home. You have always been home. You will forget this, and then you will remember it again, and each remembering will be deeper than the last, and eventually the forgetting will become so thin and so brief that it barely constitutes forgetting at all. And then you will simply live from this place, quietly, unremarkably, the way a spring lives at the source of a river, giving what it gives without drama, without exhaustion, without end. Write the words. Feel them land in your body like a key turning in a lock you did not know you carried. I am home. Carry this stillness now the way you carry your own heartbeat, but not by thinking about it, but by simply continuing to be. The activation does not require your maintenance. It only required your presence. The monad once recognized does not unremember itself. The philosopher's stone once found within the chest cannot be lost to any external circumstance. You can walk back into the noise of your ordinary life, into the meetings and the obligations and the traffic and the small frustrations, and the still point will still be there, holding everything from the center without effort, without announcement, without the need for any ceremony. You are the sky in which the clouds appear. You are the silence in which the noise is heard. You are the stillness at the center of the wheel that makes the turning possible without being moved by it. The mansion is yours. Not because you built it, but because you are it. The corridors that once frightened you are corridors you designed. The locked rooms were never locked. The key was the moment you stopped searching for it. The monad is active. The Pilgrim has arrived. The lighthouse is lit and fully operational. Go forward in the full knowledge of what you are, not as a belief you are trying to sustain, but as a recognition that is now woven into the fabric of your actual experience. The frequency you carry is the one the world has been waiting for. And tonight, at last, it is not potential. It is present. It is you. Exactly and completely and irrevocably. Welcome home, Eternal One. The great work is done. The next unfolding has already begun. The ancients depicted this as the halo, not a sign of sentimental goodness, not a decoration bestowed by divine favor upon the morally superior, but of a measurable electromagnetic coherence visible to those with perception calibrated to the subtler registers of light. Artists across dozens of cultures, separated by oceans and millennia, reached independently for the same image, a disk or ring of radiance around the head of the awakened one. They were not painting metaphor. They were painting what they could see. The halo is your protection. It is the luminous perimeter of a self that knows precisely what it is and cannot be argued out of that knowledge by pressure, by grief, by the accumulated weight of the world's forgetting. low-frequency noise. The fear of others, the manufactured urgency of 1,000 simultaneous emergencies, the ambient panic of a world that has lost its center. These things do not penetrate a coherent field. They arrive at its boundary, find no matching frequency to resonate with, and pass around it the way a river current moves around a stone that has been in the riverbed long enough to belong there completely. The stone does not struggle. The stone does not resist. The stone is simply too much itself to be moved by what moves more yielding things. And this is the gift you carry into every room you enter, not by effort, not by performance, not by the spiritual labor of constantly curating your thoughts and managing your reactions, and remembering to hold the frequency as though it were a bowl of water you might spill. Simply by holding the monad, by remaining anchored in the still point that exists at your own center before thought arises, you become a stabilizing presence that the nervous systems of others register before any word passes between you. Something in the room settles. Something in the people nearest to you exhales without knowing why. This is not magic. This is physics at the scale of consciousness. Every field influences the fields it is in proximity to. Every coherent field stabilizes the less coherent fields around it. By giving them something resonant to entrain with, you are not performing a service when you enter a room in this state. You are not deciding to be helpful. You are simply being what you are, and what you are has consequences that extend outward in every direction, invisibly and continuously, in the way that gravity has consequences without the planet needing to remember to exert it. This is the service you were built to render. Not the service of doing. Not the doing that exhausts itself in its own effort, that needs acknowledgement to sustain itself, that stops when no one is watching. The irreplaceable service of being. A lighthouse does not decide to warn the ships. It simply shines, and the ships find their way or do not, but the light has given them every possible chance. You are the light. You have always been the light. What the monad restores is simply your knowledge of this, and knowledge, at sufficient depth, is indistinguishable from the thing it knows. I want to place a phrase in your hands now. 3 words that contain the full architecture of the great work. A key that the ancient initiates spent years, sometimes decades, of preparation earning the right to speak aloud without the speaking of it becoming a lie. They did not earn this right through suffering, though suffering often came. They earned it through the slow, painstaking excavation of every false self they had constructed over a lifetime, until what remained was too simple and too fundamental to be doubted. Tonight, in this moment, in the particular quality of stillness that has gathered around you as you have moved through these pages, you speak it not as aspiration but as recognition. Not as prayer sent upward towards something distant and greater. As declaration spoken outward from something near and central and finally known. I am home. Let it form slowly. Do not rush it. Let it arise from somewhere beneath the level of language, from the place where you lived before you learned the words for things, and bring it upward through the body like something surfacing from deep water. Feel it form in the space behind your sternum, in the hollow of the chest where the breath lives between the inhale and the exhale. Feel it vibrate in the marrow, not as metaphor but as physical sensation. As a low and steady hum in the bones that you may have felt before in moments of profound recognition, and lost again before you could name what you were feeling. I am home.